Coming up on Network Africa. Death toll from Wednesday's jihadist attack rises to 80. The United Nations calls for immediate ceasefire in Tigray, Ethiopia, blocked. Kenyan courts to rule on constitutional reforms. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. The death toll from Wednesday's jihadist attack on a military convoy escorting civilians in northern Burkina Faso has risen to 80. Authorities say nearly 60 of the victims are civilians and the others soldiers and members of a pro-government militia. 80 Islamist militants were also killed in the attack near the town of Abinda. That's according to the country's information minister. Now, it's the latest attack in the Sahel region of Burkina Faso, where militants linked to Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State group operate across the borders with Niger and Mali. Thousands of civilians have been killed and millions displaced since 2018. 11 Malian soldiers have been killed during an ambush on a convoy in the central Mopti region. The military, in a statement, says 9 others were seriously injured when a car bomb was detonated and the convoy was then targeted with heavy gunfire. The Malian officer describes the attackers as terrorists, a term commonly used to refer to jihadist groups linked to Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State group. Last week, officials in Mali said more than 40 people were killed by suspected jihadists in several villages in the north of the country. Let's check in with the crisis in Tigray. The United Nations Secretary General has again called for an immediate ceasefire in the Ethiopian region of Tigray, where government forces and rebel fighters have been locked in conflict since November. Antonio Guterres has described the humanitarian conditions in Tigray as hellish, saying aid agencies need unrestricted access. Late on Thursday, a U.S. aid statement says this week, the region will run out of food for millions of people. Many have been displaced and hundreds of thousands are living in famine conditions.
The head of the United States Humanitarian Agency says aid workers will run out of food this week for millions in need in Ethiopia's conflict-ravaged Tigray region. For the first time in 9 months of war, aid workers will this week run out of food for the millions of people going hungry in Ethiopia's Tigray region. That's according to Samantha Power, head of the United States Humanitarian Agency, USAID. In a statement late on Thursday, Power said USAID, its partners and other humanitarian organizations had depleted their stores of food warehoused in Tigray. She added that people in Tigray are starving, with 900,000 in famine conditions and more than 5 million in desperate need of humanitarian assistance. Earlier, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres pushed for an immediate ceasefire in Tigray.
The Ethiopian people have suffered too much. Humanitarian conditions are hellish. Millions of people are in need, infrastructure has been destroyed, and we have heard first-hand accounts of women who have been subjected to unspeakable violence. And the spread of the conflict has ensnared even more people in its horror. It is time for all parties to recognize that there is no military solution. And it's vital to preserve the unity and stability of Ethiopia, which is critical to the region and beyond. To give peace a chance, I'm making an appeal for action on 3 fronts. First, I call on all parties to immediately cease hostilities.
The UN chief also called for unhindered humanitarian access to victims and people of Tigray.
Second, unrestricted humanitarian access everywhere must be guaranteed together with the re-establishment of public services in all affected areas. And third, conditions must be created to allow for the start of an Ethiopian-led political dialogue to find a solution for the crisis. Such a dialogue can contribute to addressing the underlying causes of the conflict and ensure Ethiopian voices direct the pathway to peace. The UN will continue to work together with the African Union, regional and international partners to support the Ethiopian people on the way to peace and reconciliation. Now is the time to put an end to the suffering. All of these steps are critical to make it happen.
The conflict has killed thousands and sparked a humanitarian crisis in one of the world's poorest regions. In recent weeks, it has spread to the neighboring Afar and Amhara provinces, displacing around 250,000 people and raising concerns of a wider destabilization of Africa's second most populous country.
The United States is offering a $5 million reward for information leading to the arrest or conviction of former Guinea-Bissau military chief Antonio Njai. Mr. Njai led a coup in the West African country in 2012 before he was dismissed 2 years later in a democratic transition. The U.S. authorities indicted him in 2013 on accusations of plotting to traffic cocaine and sell weapons to Colombian rebels. On Thursday, the U.S. Department of State noted that Mr. Njai had been a subject of a UN travel ban since May 2012 as a result of his participation in the coup. He faces charges of narco-terrorism, conspiracy to import cocaine, among others. Kenya's Court of Appeal is due to deliver a verdict on President Uhuru Kenyatta's controversial attempts to change the constitution and introduce widespread political changes. The proposed reforms include the introduction of a new post of Prime Minister and 2 deputies. However, the High Court ruled the move to change the constitution as illegal, as only Parliament and not the President has the right to initiate the process. Now, this court's decision will have a big impact on the future of Kenya's political landscape. Well, let's get more on this. Kenyan journalist Cyrus Ombati joins us now for more. Hello, Cyrus. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Now, what's the atmosphere in the country, even as citizens await this verdict on the change of constitution?
In Nairobi, or rather the entire country in Kenya, there has been a lot of kind of tension, talk about the whole ruling or the judgment which is ongoing being delivered because of what it portends. I mean, it's standing on the way, on the plans by the executive or rather led by the president and former prime minister to change the structure of governance in the country. So it's something which is deep among many Kenyans, as to say, whether it's those opposing or supporting the same drive. We're just waiting. The judges are reading their views or rather their judgments on the whole thing, and it's gonna take until late in the evening. So tension, you can say it's tension, you can say it's anxiety, all those things are there among the supporters, whether those who are supporting the Building Bridges initiative or opposing the same. It's about anxiety all over.
Well, talk to us about what would change, if the Court of Appeal allows the reforms to go ahead.
If the court allows the planned changes to go ahead, we're gonna see another appeal at the Supreme Court, because this is the Court of Appeal. Those protagonists, those who are involved in the case, may want to go to the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court to appeal. But then now, if it's allowed, it means that those proponents for the BBI, the Building Bridges initiative, will go ahead and try to make changes into, say, the structure of the government. They want to introduce a new seat of the Prime Minister, 2 deputies. Maybe we're going to see more changes in terms of the cabinet. I mean, we will be seeing politicians now from Parliament being appointed as cabinet ministers, but as opposed to the current constitution whereby the members of parliament are not supposed to be appointed cabinet ministers, which some proponents of the changes say is not good for governance at large. So it has much implication because, again, it will accommodate more regions into the national government, because as it is now, the winner takes it all. Now that if you find a president and a deputy president, if they come from two communities as it is now, the current situation, they can decide to appoint their people only to the government, which has caused much in terms of friction of governance and opposition here and there. So it has much impact in terms of proposed changes in the government structure. You will have more people in government, the executive may be expanded here and there. So it's an issue of waiting and see.
All right then, thank you so much, Kenyan journalist Cyrus Umbati. Somalia is in the process of adopting a new and permanent constitution, and there has been numerous public events that is part of a campaign related to the constitutional review process. The latest one is a 3-day workshop that had called on concerned groups to ensure that the views of youth, women, elders, and persons with disabilities are taken into consideration when finalizing the document.
A 3-day public outreach organized by the Federal Ministry of Constitutional Affairs with the support of the United Nations Assistance Mission in Somalia is meeting to drum up support for the adoption of a new permanent constitution of Somalia.
We are hopeful after the national elections are over, there will be one big national forum to review all the feedback received. What is remaining for the completion of this process is dialogue. It is for the leaders to converge and agree in order for the constitution review process to be completed.
The event was attended by over 70 participants, including legal experts, political scientists, scholars, and representatives of the youth, women, elders, and persons with disabilities.
The rights of persons with disabilities should be guaranteed in the Constitution. These rights include political representation, rights to education and employment, as well as access to public buildings and social amenities. We are here to lobby for these rights. If the Constitution does not clearly stipulate everyone's rights, some of us may suffer in the end.
One of the officials notes that the people of Mogadishu had shown a huge interest in safeguarding their rights by keenly participating in the constitutional review process.
I especially urge the youth and women to remain engaged in the review process. We hope that this process will deliver a permanent constitution that helps to bring peace and prosperity to our country.
The 3-day meeting is part of an ongoing nationwide outreach campaign that will enable citizens to contribute to the constitution-making process. The campaign events will also be held in Baidoa, Joa, Dusamareb, Kismayo, and Garowe.
Nigeria and the Republic of South Korea have pledged to explore more areas of friendship that would be beneficial to both countries. The Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Zubairu Dada, while receiving in audience the visiting South Korean First Vice Minister for Foreign Affairs, Mr. Choi Jong-kun, said both countries shared many things in common. He also stated that Nigeria attaches great importance to the political, economic, defense, education, and other sphere of her bilateral relations with the Republic of Korea. The South Korean official, who is on his first visit to Africa, expresses satisfaction over the reception received since his arrival into the country. Nigeria and South Korea would be meeting again in the 6th session of the Nigeria-South Korea Joint Commission in Seoul, Republic of Korea, in October later this year. Still ahead on the program. A unique regional status gives South Africa's rooibos tea a boost. Please stay with us for more details. Welcome back to the program. The U.S. Agency for International Development Office Transition Initiative, USAID, has built 10 new houses for the Fulani herders in Gwandara and renovated 10 other damaged houses for Kataf natives of Ongwan Bindo community, both in Jema local government area of Kaduna State here in Nigeria. The two communities were enmeshed in crisis last year, whereby many lives were lost and houses destroyed in the incident.
Sing and dance for us as we march.
Ongwan Bido, a community in Jema local government area of Kaduna State, was in the news last year for killings, counterattacks and destruction of property. With a decades-long relationship between the Gwandara natives, the Kataf people, and migrating Fulani severed. Thankfully, with the reconciliation process facilitated by the Southern Kaduna Joint Peace Committee, USAID, and Jema local government, the two warring tribes are willing to reconcile their differences. Leveraging on this, USAID, through the Nigeria Early Recovery Initiative, is handing over 10 new houses to the herders and another 10 renovated houses to the natives.
We were able to get down to the root of some of the things that caused the crisis, and then what did NERI do? So we tried to support the community resolution and reconciliation process through a holistic package. So what did we do in this place? So we came down and we thought to do something to rebuild the houses of the herders which were destroyed, and also renovate the houses of the locals in Ongwan Bido.
To build mutual trust, 100 children, 80 from displaced Fulani community and 20 from the host community have been enrolled in school. The older ones taught skills for self-reliance, while the larger community is provided with solar-powered streetlights and boreholes. But to maintain this trend of development, the people themselves have roles to play.
We have gone beyond reconciliation. What we are building is we are rebuilding a mutual trust that was lost last year as a result of the conflict.
Please don't hesitate to call the security agent. We are here for you. You have DPO, you have area commander, and apart from these DPOs, we have another tactical teams we send here, all for your own security.
With their houses rebuilt, the residents are happy and commit to living in peace with each other.
We thank God for the peace that we are having now. Our prayer is that may God Almighty continue to visit every one of us, whether the Gwandara people or the Kataf people or the Fulani. May God Almighty help us to join our head together and see ourselves as brothers and sisters.
We are just very happy with anybody with here. We are not problem. There is not any problem. We are very happy with everybody that come here.
Armed response to settling conflicts has only brought destruction for the Kataf and Fulani people. And now, they've been shown a better way, dialogue and recourse to the law.
The COVID-19 vaccination age in South Africa has now been revised to include 18 to 34-year-olds. Starting Friday, all adults will now be able to access the jab as the country wraps up its vaccination drive. Initially, only those aged 35 and older were eligible for vaccination. South Africa has administered more than 10 million doses so far. The country has recorded over 2.6 million coronavirus cases since the start of the pandemic. The head of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, has welcomed a ruling by the Swiss media regulator that found a newspaper headline describing her as a grandmother after her appointment to lead the body was gender-biased. She lauded the Swiss Press Council, saying they are right for calling out gender bias and sexism. Argwa Zaintug newspaper ran the headline, "This grandmother will become the boss of the WTO after Ms. Okonjo-Iweala was appointed in March." The paper later apologized following widespread criticism, saying its headline had been inappropriate and unsuitable. Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala, a Nigerian-American, is a widely respected Harvard-educated development economist. She served as Finance and Foreign Affairs Minister in Nigeria and worked for 25 years at the World Bank. The 67-year-old is the first African and woman to lead the WTO. Well, come December, when farmers near Cape Town harvest rooibos leaves, they will become the first generation to grow and sell a tea with a unique regional status, a designation awarded to other such products as French champagne or Irish whiskey. The rooibos tea, whose name means red bush in Afrikaans, the language of South Africa's earliest European settlers, was the first African product to get such a status in the European Union. As champagne is to France, whiskey is to Ireland, now rooibos tea is to South Africa. Come December, the tea will have what's called unique regional status, awarded by the European Union. It's the first African product to get the title in June. Farmers and agriculture experts now hope that could help boost demand and improve the crop's profitability. The rooibos tea means red bush in Afrikaans. The rosemary-type shrubs are indigenous to a small area of the drought-prone Western Cape and Northern Cape provinces. Rooibos farmer Dion Zandberg explains.
Just like champagne is unique to France, so too is rooibos in this area, where it traditionally grows, making it unique to South Africa, especially this area in the Western Cape. What makes rooibos unique is that its presence in an area that is very small and remote. The fact that it grows here naturally makes it unique. The other thing is, it's a very healthy product. It's caffeine-free.
Red bush is commonly drunk as a tea, infused in drinks and used in beauty products. It dates back hundreds of years to South Africa's Cederberg region. It grows over 70,000 hectares of land, and the industry produces around 15,000 tons of rooibos annually, with half of that exported to countries like Japan, Germany and the Netherlands. In London, Fortnum & Mason is a household name for luxury shopping. Ottilie Cunningham is the posh retailer's expert on tea and coffee.
For us, it's all about the provenance, and rooibos has a fantastic, story. I mean, if you've been out to see where it's grown in Cederberg Mountains, it's really hot, sandy. It's an amazing looking bush. It looks to me like a rosemary bush. So who's growing it, where it's grown, the stories around that, the environment and the community where it's grown. That's one of the things we look for. Obviously, taste and I mean, rooibos is fantastic. It's got this wonderful, soothing, calming flavour to it, quite sweet.
The sector is made up of around 350 commercial and 100 emerging farmers who have battled dry conditions for successive years that have dented yields and drove prices higher. Now, many hope the EU nod will eventually mean rooibos can be sold at a premium much like champagne when compared with other sparkling wines. And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke. Have a great weekend.